Week 3, Week 2, Week 1. All of the weeks of the NFL so far have not disappointed. My name is Josiah Wonnell. I welcome you into the Power and Light podcast. Joining me today is Caysson Higgins as we prep for Week 4. And if it's anything like those first 3, it's going to be very entertaining. So we're going to speed run this through, and we're going to look at each and every game for at least a moment and just look at all the different things that could happen as we preview each and every matchup. So let's get into it. Thursday night football, the Seahawks and the Cardinals, an NFC West matchup. What are you looking forward to in this specific matchup?
Yeah, these NFC West matchup games are always intense. It's a very intense division. Both these teams 2-1 in the young season. I'm looking for the quarterbacks. Kyler Murray needs to show that he's still alive there in Arizona. They might not be very good this year, and so they could be drafting quarterback here in the upcoming draft, so he needs to prove that he belongs. And then Sam Darnold on the other side hasn't quite shown what he did in Minnesota last year. He needs to show these Seattle fans what he can do in a Seahawks uniform.
Definitely two interesting quarterback careers, because I wouldn't say that they're failures, but I also wouldn't say they're amazing. Definitely not one of the greats.
Yeah.
Let's go to Ireland for the Vikings and the Steelers. Sunday morning for us. This Vikings offense now led by a man named Carson Wentz, no longer J.J. McCarthy because of an injury, and they go off. Do the Vikings do that again, but this time over the pond, across the pond?
Well, I'm curious about Carson Wentz for me. I think he got his career cut short just a little bit, but he had a very good game. He did what he needed to do, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns. Can you replicate that against a pretty good Steelers defense? And then it's all up to Aaron Rodgers. He had his worst game of the year on Sunday. Can he bounce back and show Steelers fans what they saw in the first week against the Jets? Can they continue that over there in Ireland?
Now we look at the noon slate for us Central Timers. The first game, Commanders-Falcons, 2 atrocious offenses last week. At what point does Kirk Cousins come in to replace Michael Penix?
He came in late in that game. I didn't quite understand the decision to draft Penix and then starting him this year. It's all very confusing to me. They need to give, I think, Kirk a shot just because of how poorly Penix has performed so far. And then the other quarterback, Jaden Daniels, is he going to play next week, and how much of a high level can he play at?
It came to a surprise for Kirk as well. He talked about that in many stories and discussions. Chargers and Giants. The Chargers, one of the surprises, I would say, throughout the beginning. They're 3-0 all against AFC West opponents. They finally play somebody outside of their division, but they feel very comfortable about this AFC West lead.
Absolutely, and they're playing a pretty weak team here in the Giants, except when they play the Cowboys. Their offense has looked absolutely anemic up to this point. Jackson Dart will be starting on Sunday, so that's something to look forward to in East Rutherford, but Justin Herbert and the Chargers look to absolutely trounce this Giants team.
Once again, Russell Wilson benched on a team that he's new at. It's going to be interesting to see what the Ole Miss prospect does on his new uniform. We've seen him play. This is not his debut, but it will be his starting debut as they finally give him the ring. On the other side, Cam Skattebo, also a fabulous start against the Chiefs. We'll see if he can kind of build on that momentum into this Chargers game. Chiefs fans, we're cheering for a Giants win there, right there. All right, Titans and Texans, a little bit of a fight over Houston. Question is, who's going to come out here with 2 quarterbacks that are also kind of struggling?
Yeah, Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick coming out of the draft, he's looked all right. I feel like there's been some restraints on how much he can do. Like the playbook's been a little simplified for the rookie quarterback, as you hear. So I'm curious to see what they do against the struggling Texans team that just released C.J. Gardner-Johnson. This team got a little weaker. C.J. Stroud has not looked like himself from his rookie year. Had a bad sophomore year. Has had a bad start to his junior year here. I guess his third year, whatever you want to call it. Can he perform against a lackluster Titans defense?
It's time to turn it around for him if he wants to save that starting spot. I believe he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, but right now statistics and the win column are not proving that. Eagles and Buccaneers, this might be the best game in that noon slot. 2 very good teams and 2 quarterbacks who have really shown out, especially last week. Who do you have in this one?
I think I'm leaning towards the Buccaneers. The Eagles have felt like they have a little bit of devil's magic on their side in these first 3 games. Kind of what people said about the Chiefs last year. I think the Bucs are tried and true already. 3 close games, all one score, all comebacks. Baker Mayfield's looking his best that he has since Oklahoma. Can he lead them to a win against another 3-0 team? Battle of undefeateds, I'm leaning towards yes.
Whichever team wins this will likely be one of the favorites to go win that NFC championship spot and a trip to the Super Bowl. Panthers and Patriots. This game is going to be interesting, I think is the easiest way to say it. Two teams that have not had the hottest starts. And that's really the trend when you look at 3 weeks. But you've got two teams that have a lot of question marks. What are we looking for in this game?
Yeah, it's two quarterbacks I'm really high on. Bryce Young, I think he has a lot of potential. And now he has some weapons with Tet, McMillan, and a good running backs, even though they can't seem to stay healthy over there in Carolina. And then you have Drake May coming out of UNC, kind of a Mac Jones replacement almost. They seem very similar, but I think they both Bryce Young and Drake May have high ceilings in this league. Can they perform on a not super big stage against a not great defense on both sides is the real question for me.
Yeah, you could convince me that they were twins. They definitely have a lot of similarities between the two of them.
Patriots have a type for sure.
Saints and Bills. This is going to be an interesting one because the Bills should blow out the Saints, but we just talked about parity in the last episode. What do the Saints have to do here to at least keep it close and possibly upset this Buffalo team?
I think Kellen Moore has to do what Kellen Moore does best, and that is trickery. He has to pull out some weird plays to try to confuse this Bills defense, but if they played out they did last week, they can keep this game close. And with Spencer Rattler, who's their starter right now, I think they can keep it close if the Bills let them. I just don't know that they can do anything if the Bills are playing their best football.
The final noon game between the Browns and the Lions. Now, the Browns only gave up 10 points to a Jordan Love-led offense last week and pulled off a huge, probably the biggest so far, an upset win over the Green Bay Packers. What do they have to do in this one if they want to do the same with the Lions?
This is a defense on paper that looks decently solid. Maybe not good enough to hold Jordan Love to 10 points, but they have a tall task ahead of them in this Lions team who just performed really well, but they're coming on a short week, a Monday night game, only 5 days of rest instead of 6. Will that have something to do with it playing in the noon slot on a Sunday game? The Browns are more well-rested. They have a talented team. Can they stop this very dynamic offense in Detroit?
This afternoon slate's going to be really, really fun. The Jags and the 49ers. The 49ers, a surprise there with Mac Jones already started off really hot in replacement of Brock Purdy after an injury. This Jags team really not finding Brian Thomas. Is that the key to igniting their offense?
They need to find their playmakers. Trevor Lawrence has had not a great start to his NFL career. He looked good in that 22-23 season, but he's kind of fallen off. They're 2-1 in the early going with wins against weaker teams like Carolina and Houston, but they need to find their playmakers in guys like Travis Etienne Jr. and Brian Thomas, Brenton Strange, all of those guys. Get them the ball and see if you can beat out an injured San Francisco 49ers defense.
Giants fans, plug your ears for this one. Daniel Jones looks really good with the Indianapolis Colts, and they face a Rams team that just gave up one of the craziest comebacks we've seen in NFL. I would say the entire NFL this year, but probably over recent memory.
Yeah.
They choked right there. What do they have to do to beat this very hot Colts team?
This Colts team is reminding me of the Saints team early on from last year. An explosive offense that no one could seem to stop. But Daniel Jones is playing like an MVP candidate. No turnovers in 3 games, 816 yards. Jonathan Taylor looks like the stellar running back that he is. Michael Pittman Jr. These playmakers over there on the Colts are the key to beating this team over there. And I feel like the Colts look good. I was iffy on the Saints last year. They fell off. Can they keep it up against a pretty good Rams defense? It will be interesting to see.
I saw a quote from last week saying that this is the first time we've seen Caleb Williams look like his Heisman self in the NFL. Does he continue that momentum as the Chicago Bears play the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas?
Well, I think when anyone plays the Cowboys, they're going to look pretty good. But Caleb Williams did look good. He wasn't getting super pressured, and when he had time in the pocket, he was making accurate, intelligent throws, and that was really impressive for me to see. This Raiders team has been disappointing for through the first 3 games, losing to the Chargers by 2 scores and losing to the Commanders by 3 scores. Geno Smith has looked very disappointing, 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. I think if the Bears' offensive line can give Caleb Williams time to operate and dissect the Raiders' defense like he did the Cowboys, Romeo Dunze, DJ Moore, that wide receiving core is going to have a great game.
The new game that Derrick Henry has picked up, his favorite hobby is hot potato. He's fumbled in every single week so far. Will he continue that against this Kansas City Chiefs team that may have just figured some things out against the Giants?
This is still a good Ravens defense, I think, even though they didn't necessarily show it against that Lions team. It's a great offense. This is a Chiefs offense that I am a little nervous about, especially without their playmakers. Lamar Jackson's probably the MVP favorite so far with 9 touchdowns to no interceptions. Derrick Henry has 3 fumbles, like you mentioned, 2 of them in the fourth quarter, but he's such a talented player. I find it hard to believe that he'll do it again, but he is getting up there in age, and we've seen running backs start to decline as they get older. He's already ahead of the mean. We'll see if he can hopefully cut that trend out against the Chiefs.
Sunday Night Football, 2 teams both coming in with a loss, but you would think this Packers team, after a surprise upset with the Cleveland Browns beating them, you'd think that they'd come in this game really hungry. Be honest, Cowboys fans, what's the chances right here that Jerry Jones and Jerry World welcomes Micah Parsons back with a proper homecoming?
He's already said there's going to be no tribute video, which I think is appropriate. He didn't do very much in Dallas, although I love him as a player. Micah Parsons is going to come in hungry. He's probably going to be on the right side of that line against Terrence Steele, the worst part of that offensive line, and Tyler Booker and Cooper Beebe are both hurt on that offensive line. That defensive line is going to have a feast against that. Dak is going to have minimal time in the pocket, and if you think he threw for not that many yards per completion last week, it's going to be ugly this week. Jordan Love is going to torch the Cowboys like he did in that 2023 divisional game. This game could get ugly quick.
You sound optimistic. This will be a fun one for you on Sunday Night Football. Also, CeeDee Lamb out for at least 3 to 4 weeks. It's going to be difficult for Dak to find somebody, but when he does find him, it's probably going to be George Pickens or his other limited options. Monday Night Football, we have 2 games, another double slate. First between the Jets and the Dolphins. And the Dolphins looked really, really bad the first 2 weeks and didn't look as bad last week. Does that change anything against this Jets team that has a lot of questions as well?
No, I don't think the Dolphins are very good. It's the battle of the haven't got to win. Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields. I thought the Jets could have won that Week 1 game against the Steelers. They played great. Haven't looked as good recently, but I think just how dynamic their offensive capabilities can be, I think will propel them to a win against a not very good Dolphins team.
And last and quite possibly least, the Bengals and the Broncos will face off as the final game of Week 4. Jake Browning versus Bo Nix, Bo Nix that hasn't looked good. This could be a big game for fantasy owners who have the defenses of these teams.
Yeah, Bo Nix has, like I said last episode, been the worst-rated quarterback through 3 games. Jake Browning, although he went 4-3 as a starter last year with Joe Burrow out, they got annihilated last week against a good Vikings team. I think, the question mark for me is going to be how can Jake Browning and Bo Nix play? Obviously, the quarterbacks are always the X factors in an NFL football game or any football game for that matter. Chase Brown is going to have to do better than 2 yards per carry. Right now the Bengals are averaging 2.4 yards on the ground as a team per carry. That is one of the worst numbers I've ever seen in my years of watching football. This is a Broncos defense which has looked good through 3 games, so I'm interested to see what these offenses can do against pretty good defenses.
If you had to pick one team that you're the most confident in winning their game this week, who would it be? Because for me, I would say the Detroit Lions. It's okay if you copy me because I don't think the Cleveland Browns can do that every week. And the Lions offense looked way too good. The Browns offense led by Joe Flacco, it just can't keep up. Even if they put other quarterbacks in, I don't think they can keep up. Who are you most confident in winning this week?
I think I'm most confident in the Chargers winning in New Jersey against those Giants. The Giants, I know why they looked so good against the Cowboys because they're not very good. But going into Kansas City going into New York, playing the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football last week, you thought maybe they could do something. They looked terrible. Jackson Dart will go in there, his first start as a rookie. I can't imagine good things will come for that.
See, that's really funny that you say that because my next and last question is which game would you pick to upset? And my pick is the Giants over the Chargers.
Interesting.
And the reason why, and I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like Justin Herbert's playing really, really good football right now, and the Chargers look really good. But something about Cam Skattebo and just a new opportunity, because if Jackson Dart struggles, they're going to run that ball as much as they can. And he looks so fired up right now. He looks so good. And maybe it's because I had the eyes of a Chiefs fan watching him closer, but I was scared of him. There's not a lot of running backs I'm scared of. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, there's a few of them. I'm willing to put him in the same conversation if he continues to do what he did against the Kansas City Chiefs. So my pick for an upset this week is Cam Skattebo. Keyword Cam Skattebo, not Jackson Dart. He could have a great week and he could surprise it. But Cam Skattebo and the New York Giants upset the Los Angeles Chargers. Do you have an upset for this week?
I'm going to go the Bengals over the Broncos. Broncos are favored by 7.5 at home, but I think Jake Browning's not going to play as bad as he did last week. And kind of piggybacking on what you said about Cam Skattebo, as a Texas fan, I watched them in that Peach Bowl game on that nail biter, and he was terrifying. It felt like he was running for 20 yards every carry. I mean, he looked like he could run through a 3-foot thick brick wall. I was terrified of him. Texas barely escaped with the win in that game. But Cam Skattebo can do great things in this league for a long time.
I still think about that flag. There were some big moments in there that I just was surprised by. But I will say, and I'm still traumatized by, but I will say Cam Skattebo, I mean, he is built different. You run, you throw a pass touchdown, you run for a touchdown, you walk over to the side, you puke your guts out, you go back out there. He's built different.
Yeah.